So welcome to the Social Media for Business podcast, episode 10. Gosh, we're in double figures now. Where has the time gone? I am your host, Rebecca Bridgen from Innov8 Social, specialist in managing B2B on-brand maritime social media. And today we will be speaking with Phil Treagus-Evans, founder of social media agency Giraffe Social, as well as author of Human First Marketing. I've got the book here. First of all, we're thrilled to have you on the show, Phil. So welcome.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks, Rebecca.
So Phil will be sharing insights into how social media is changing for businesses and the right approach. And we'll be exploring aspects of his new book, which is a great follow-on actually from episode 9 with Dan Bryant, who was very much focusing on the people behind a brand, as well as Andy Ford in episode 8, who was talking about culture actually, and how the culture of internal culture should come out on social media. So they sort of all tie in really nicely actually. So this episode will be great for marketers and business owners to learn the deeper connection that social platforms can offer. So welcome, Phil. So now you run your own social media agency, and I feel your pain. And recently, you've written your book, which you very kindly actually emailed me. That's how we got chatting. But I'd actually already knew about Giraffe Social, so I was really pleasantly receptive to when you messaged me to have a chat, and thought, yes, let's get you on this podcast for sure, especially about the book, about the art of being seen, trusted and remembered. So we're going to talk about that a bit. But let's first just have a look at what led you to this in the first place, actually. I want to learn how you came into the sphere of social media and how Giraffe Social was formed back in 2012, was it?
Yeah, so just a little over 13 years ago, which is crazy.
Wow.
2012 sounds like not that long ago, but when you start actually counting up the years, it's like, wow, okay, yeah, a lot of time has passed. So started Giraffe with a friend of mine, Kane, obviously now business partner, and it was at a time when social media was only just starting to be used as a marketing tool. You know, before that, it was just a social platform to sort of connect with friends and so on. And we started to do it for another project that we had at the time. But we very quickly started to be asked by friends who had bands or, family members who had businesses, and sort of said, this is interesting. Like, what are you doing, and how can you help us? So we started Giraffe in an afternoon. We really put very little thought into it, and just said, let's start this business. So I remember us sitting down and working our way through the animal kingdom. We decided to name after an animal. So we were sort of going through every animal and thinking, well, what does that have to do with social media? Would that work? Settled on Giraffe. And we've been doing it for 13 years now. In terms of how we got to a point of sort of creating this human first marketing kind of idea and philosophy. So really this has sort of organically happened over the last few years. And the beauty of running a social media agency is that we are building case studies all the time. We're seeing what's working for brands, what's not working. We're always doing competitor research. And so it gives you a bit of a privileged position, as you know, where you can really have your finger on the pulse. And we were just finding time and time again that the strategies that seem to be working the best were people focused, whether that be influencer marketing, which we know over the last 5 years or so has sort of erupted. Things like employee advocacy was starting to be something that we were getting asked about a lot. And also just businesses being a little bit more founder-led, executive teams suddenly showing an interest in, what should they be doing on LinkedIn and these sorts of things. And any of the clients we had that really lent into those approaches were just seeing better results. And I was sort of formulating this idea in my head of, this is all linked to people, and what does that mean? And so the book was, I always say it's a bit of a selfish endeavor, really, because it was a way of me organizing all of these chaotic thoughts into something a bit more structured. And it's been helpful for Giraffe, and hopefully it's helpful for other people as well with their marketing.
Yeah, I love that. And And I love that it's giraffe, and you went through because that is the inside of a creative's brain, isn't it? And you come up with all sorts of crazy ideas, but actually it's punchy and it sticks in people's minds, and that's half the battle, isn't it? But I mean, I'm with you on the whole human first element. It's the same results for us. It's when the people get behind the brand that it really lifts the entire marketing on a social scale. So yeah, we found exactly the same thing as you. And yeah, some companies do it better than others, I think. And I think that then weaves into, well, why? And I guess that's what I was talking with Andy Ford in episode 8 was about the culture and the that internal. So it's really interesting to see how different companies are doing it as well, because they're not all doing it the same. They're all they're still using the people, but they've just all got these unique perspectives, these unique flavors, I guess, that they're letting loose on social media, and that's what makes social media really delicious for me. So I, of course, naturally, before we really sort of got talking about the podcast, of course, I did do a little bit of LinkedIn stalking, and that's what LinkedIn's good for, right? Before you have a meeting with anybody, you always can check out.
Yeah.
And what really stuck out for me, Phil, was that you had a need to slow down, I think, a few years ago because of anxiety and things like that. And I really can empathize myself with that. And you were also looking at mindfulness and putting the working life into perspective. And I think the reason why I'm tying this in here is because social media is very all-consuming. And we have a lot of marketing professionals that listen to this podcast. So I just thought it was nice to bring that in, because also we see them as well, and they're busy spinning all sorts of plates, including social media, because apparently they're supposed to be a specialist in everything, right? So you then used an unusual outlet, which was Lego, which made me chuckle, because actually I thought that was also a genius thing to put in your LinkedIn profile, because so many people actually do like Lego, and it's so curveball conversation, but even things like that, when you put them on your profile, it will get a conversation started, especially in the sales process. So, not that I always think about the sales process, but I thought that was really interesting. So just can you tell me a little bit about your, how you came about it and how you're managing all of that now?
Yeah, so I first started feeling symptoms of anxiety maybe like 9 years ago. And at first I didn't really realize that I was experiencing anxiety. I was just sort of confused about, why am I feeling these weird symptoms, and, and finding myself panicking in situations that I shouldn't be panicking in. And it all sort of culminated in one particular day where I was doing a training session with our team, which is something I do all the time.
Yeah.
And there's not something at this stage that I feel nervous about, really. And yeah, I just had a panic attack, basically. I was just sort of freaking out, felt like I needed to get outside, like I needed to get out. And I remember phoning my wife and saying, like, I think I need to speak to someone about this, because it's starting to really impact me. So I did. I reached out and had some therapy. I've had several rounds of therapy over the years. I think everyone should have therapy at some point.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
really rewarding and helpful. And yeah, so I sort of started to manage it, and that was going well. But the thing that kind of sparked Lego was actually the pandemic. So when the pandemic happened and we were all stuck indoors, and a lot of my early sort of anxiety was around health anxiety.
right.
And so during the pandemic, it was sort of really tricky. And yeah, we have someone in our family who's really into Lego, and he
There's
said,
always one.
Yeah, but now there's two. And he said, let me drop off some Lego. You need something to sort of occupy your brain. I used to be really into doing jigsaw puzzles and stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So he did, and there was something about losing yourself in something like that, where it's it's not necessarily difficult, but it's something that you can just sort of zone out, and I found that it really quietened my mind. So yeah, we're a few years on now, and I've spent far too much money on plastic bricks, and to the point where I'm having to sell stuff because it's like, we don't have anywhere to put this anymore. But it's, to this day, it's still something that if I'm having a particularly stressful week, or just going through a bit of a rough patch with my mental health, Lego's just a really good release. I mean, it's, there are other things that I do to help, but yeah, Lego is. My wife said to me recently, she saw this interview with someone who said, when you're feeling like that, you need to get out of your head and into your hands. And I really like that, and that's what I find, is that sometimes doing something physical, whether it's Lego or gardening or something that sort of occupies your hands, it actually can really help.
Do you know, I was just about to say, it's gardening for me.
Nice.
And then you sit back at the end of the day, you get your fingers really dirty, and it's quite often I have to sort of, before I go to a maritime event, which is very corporate and everyone's dressed really nice, I have to sort of really scrub my fingers. But yeah, it's funny. But and another reason that I thought was really nice is because you're talking about human first, but you had just perfectly demonstrated in your profile that humanness that people can instantly connect to, because they go, yeah, that's me too. And maybe I should put gardening in my profile, I'm thinking. But it's a conversation starter, isn't it?
It is, but it's also just trying to be authentic, and that's a word that gets used a lot, and it's hard sometimes to know what that means and how to do it. Because you sort of, by doing it, you're almost not being authentic. It's a tricky one.
So pleased you've just said that, because it is bandied around a lot, and I've quite often sat here and I thought, well, what is authentic? What is authentic for me? And it's really hard to label. You just have to be it. But then if you're focusing on being yourself, are you then influenced by others, and then you're copying? Or when you go down the rabbit hole and you think, no, it's not even worth analyzing this. Just be yourself.
I think it is really tricky, and I think it's something I talk about in the book, actually, in the personal branding chapter, that it should never really be like a set it and forget it, because as humans, we're always changing, and our interests are always changing, and our beliefs are always changing. So you can't just sort of say, right, I am this, and this is what I talk about, and this is what I do, because 6 months later, that might not be the case. It might not be as representative anymore. So it's tricky, but I've always kind of tried to be as much of an open book as I can, especially around mental health, because when I was growing up, I didn't have any issues with mental health, and I had family members who did, and I didn't really understand it. And it wasn't until I dealt with it myself that I sort of thought, God, this is tough. And I often think about, like, if I wasn't doing Giraffe and I was working somewhere, I think I'd be quite scared about, well, how do they approach mental health? Do they take it seriously? Like, is it something that, I don't know, is not going to be a problem? So as a result of that, like, it's so important to me that at Giraffe we have so much in place to sort of remove any stigma, and really sort of, make sure that everyone on the team knows that safe space to kind of talk about these things. And I always share my own sort of, encounters with mental health to try and show the team that, everyone can deal with this. And I think everyone is dealing with it, right? I think, it's, no one's kind of completely just fine all the time. It's, everyone has their stuff.
Yeah, I think it comes and goes. I actually, if we were sort of being honest and open, as a woman, I think we definitely get it a little bit on a monthly basis. And I actually said to my husband yesterday, I said, I don't know, today just feels a bit funny. It just feels a bit like, ugh, and I'd just like to go to bed and get it off my skin and move forward. And it does happen sometimes like that. But I think a lot of people don't, like you're saying, like, I didn't suffer really mental health issues when I was younger at all, but I think you don't fully understand it until you've been in the position where you have, been there, and then you kind of go, I get it now. And it is a bit of it's a real quandary, I think. And a tough one to tackle because it's different for everybody as well, right? It's not like a set, oh, this is this and this is how we, it's in the mind. So and
I think
everyone's
it's
unique.
especially hard for entrepreneurs and also for people working in marketing because, like you said, I've never spoken to a marketing person who said, do you know what, I just got loads of time and I just I don't have much on my plate and I'm looking for something. Like every marketer I've ever spoke to is like, yeah, so I do this but I also do that and they expect me to do this and I need to do this, like, and it sort of sounds like, well, when do you get to sleep and eat? And, it's pretty commonplace. So,
and when do you
yeah,
get the time to master any one particular skill? And that's when your imposter syndrome starts to creep in because you're busy doing all of these different things and you don't feel like you're equipped or knowledgeable enough. But, what they need to realize is everybody feels that way.
Yeah. And I always say to the team as well that whether it's at Giraffe or somewhere else in the future, it's beneficial to have knowledge of other areas, even if there is one area that you're specifically passionate about and is maybe your main sort of skill. As a marketer, to be able to think strategically, you kind of need to have at least a base level knowledge of how PR works or how SEO works or web design or user experience. Like, you don't need to know everything, but it's useful to kind of have a broad knowledge base because it allows you to put together strategies that are a little bit more sort of contextual.
Yeah, 100%. And also, especially in your position as well as mine, you then are also working with marketing teams and PR agencies. And so it helps to understand what they need as well and think on that sort of multi-format, multi-touch point, as they like to say. Strategy, it's, you can get your brain in knots, but it's good to understand where they're coming from. So I guess I'm going to bring it back round to the, thank you for sharing that, by the way. It was a bit of a curveball. But let's bring it back round to the book. So it sets out 4 principles, which are people, authenticity, connection, and purpose. How do these principles provide the foundations of relationships that last in a digital world? So how did you come to that conclusion in the first place, and how does it translate into the digital world?
Yeah, I think when I started writing the book, I was originally focused very much on the practicalities of how do you do this? Like, what does human first marketing look like? But the more I sort of looked into it and the more I figured out a framework, the more I realized that for any of this to work, it needs to be underpinned with the right beliefs and values, especially when you're looking at things like your team and why would they want to be involved. I think having strong values in your company and people who are proud of where they work will just naturally lead to people becoming advocates. And the same with your customers. If you have a really good product or service and you look after your customers, they're more likely to want to keep working with you or recommend you to someone. So I thought the best way to do that would be to start the book with those 4 principles. And they're really the things that underpin the whole framework in terms of the beliefs I have about marketing. So like if we go through them, the people side of it, naturally the book's called Human First Marketing. Be a bit weird if one of the principles wasn't people. So yeah, it's really all about the fact that we should be prioritizing people and the fact that if you go back far enough, if you spoke to your grandparents, they would probably know the name of their local shopkeeper and these sorts of things. And we've lost that. And I think that's really important. Like, is there a better feeling in the world than when you walk in a cafe and they go, oh, do you want your usual?
Like,
so good. It makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And we've lost that in marketing because of the fact that everything's so data led and we've stopped thinking about people as people and we're starting to see them as data points, and it's all just gross. I want us to start treating people as people. So yeah, and then connection obviously goes without saying, but we should be less focused on the short term sales leads, and we see this working in agencies. I call it the cascade of blame, where you have like the people at the top of a big company and they have goals that they want to achieve. So they put the pressure on their CMO,
Yeah.
who puts the pressure on their marketing manager, who puts
Yeah.
pressure on the agency. And everyone's just stressed and trying to just generate a result that they can show someone so that they don't lose their job. And to me, that dynamic leads to poor marketing, and it leads to a lack
Yeah.
of connection. I always say that the goal here isn't sort of short-term sales; it's building advocates, whether that's internally or externally with your customers. I think if the end goal is how do we build a business and marketing that just naturally, organically generates advocates for our brand, I mean that's super important. Purpose, I think when I've done a lot of thinking over the last sort of few months since the book's come out about what my purpose is and what I want to achieve in my life. And when I boil it down, I think it's that I want people to see marketing and entrepreneurialism as a positive force, that it can be a force for good.
Yeah.
Because I think often it's not. And I think marketing as well, I think some people have a bit of an icky kind of feeling about, your job is to trick people into buying something they don't need,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't want to feel like that. And I think
Yeah.
marketing can be, it can be something that's really, really positive, and business is the same. When I was growing up, I remember having a careers day and saying, I think I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a business. And sort of being laughed at a little bit and sort of being told,
Yes.
well,
Yeah. Yeah.
pick something a bit more stable, pick something a bit more safe and stable. And I hate that. Like
Yeah.
our world requires businesses to create jobs and, support economies and create amazing products and services that people need and can help them. So why are we sort of trying to talk young people out of
Yeah.
taking risks and starting entrepreneurial careers? So,
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about that. So that's a wild tangent from purpose, but that's my purpose. And I think
Yeah.
businesses and marketing should be purpose led. You should be,
Yeah.
you should be focused on why are you doing this? What's your why for this?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I quite often say, and it does take a lot of thought. I think a lot of companies think, oh, we know our why, we know why we're here. And then I sit them down, then I go, okay, to talk to me about it. And then they stumble and they don't really know. And then we have to sort of really go into it. And it is hard to find your why and your purpose. And there was a couple of things actually that you just said that really resonated to me. And the first one was, for the marketing, if you're in this cascade of stress, for a marketing professional, that's the worst environment to be able to produce good results, because your confidence is instantly at a low. And when your confidence is at a low, your self-doubt creeps in, then creativity is nowhere to be seen, because you're worried all the time. Or I've got this idea, but I don't think that I could show it because, I don't think they would like it. And then that leads into the next bit that you just said was when, you were laughed at school about being an entrepreneur. I recently had a conversation very similar to this with a mentee of mine who's just graduated. And it's been a bugbear of mine for many years because I got laughed at a lot in the beginning. I mean, I did have some crazy ideas, I'm not going to lie, but I had to let them out because I needed to get to the next one, to eventually get to the one that was going to work, right? So,
Yeah.
But I said to her, what I realized over the years was the reason I was laughed at was not because my ideas were ludicrous. It was because of the limitation of the people that I was sharing my ideas with. They were limited by their own belief of what they couldn't do, what they felt comfortable with, and their fears. And they were projecting those onto me. And I had to learn that actually if someone laughs at something I'm not going to get into familial things, but people in my family, would often sort of try and limit me by their life experiences. And I think it took me a while to realize that actually whenever anything was negatively said, it was always as a result of actually it's their fear being projected onto me. And I eventually turned around and said, I'm not going to let your fear control me or shape me, because I'm a different person and I'm going to do it differently. So
plus I think
yeah.
with young people, it's like that's the best time to do this, right? Like you have no
Nothing to lose.
responsibilities, nothing to lose. Like I always said to Kane when we started, like if we're gonna fail, like let's fail fast. Let's start businesses that fail and learn and start something else. And I think the older you are and the more responsibilities you have, it becomes more challenging to do this. So
yeah, I agree. And I know quite a few people who've gone out on their own recently, and it is amazing. And I didn't really step out on my own until late 30s, and with marriage, mortgage, kids, that sort of thing. But actually the way I did it worked for me, but I was very lucky. But I do see that it is really tricky, but equally, you've got different stages of life where you've got more confidence and more sort of, what if I don't do it now? I'm never going to do it. But I love that you've got to fail. You've just got to do it so many times until you manage to get the right thing. And you have to lose that fear of failure and just get on with it, don't you?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think that's the barrier that so many people are sort of stopped by, is that fear of failure. And I think as soon as you go, I don't care about failing, like that's just learning, then it makes everything easier.
And it's the fear about what other people will think of you. And you have to let that go.
Yeah, still working on that, but yeah.
Yes, same. We obviously care less about it because we went and did this, but it is still there, isn't it? You can't help it; it's natural. So we were doing a lot of deviations here, but I think that's going to happen all the way through. So going back to, you were talking about the human element of the book, and you also said that a lot of digital campaigns can feel transactional, because they do, and it was all very data led. And I wanted to ask you, in your view, where do organisations most often lose the human touch and risk creating relationships that don't stick?
Yeah, I think it's what we've talked about. I think it's the pressure to always be kind of demonstrating measurable results, things where you can put a number on it. And I know that makes sense. And from a business perspective, I run a business. I know you need to create revenue and be profitable. I know all these things, but you're losing the humanity then when you're trying to boil down marketing to like metrics alone. I just think, like, how do you put a metric on how you make someone feel?
Yeah.
There's like brand sentiment, but I always think that's super flawed, because studies have shown that people are far more likely to complain when they're unhappy than to say how great everything is when they're happy.
Yes.
So you tend to see a bit of a warped view of things anyway.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to pressure, and it comes down to sort of provable data and the need to constantly be saying, hey, look at this number went up by 3%. Isn't that brilliant? Like, it's like, well, is it? I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I get that for a lot of us, metrics and data are almost a bit of a comfort, a bit of a safety blanket of, I'm doing good. Like, this number is green and that one is red, and but I just think sometimes we need to not stress so much about measuring everything.
Yeah, I totally get you. I think the metrics are good there to kind of, because sometimes you feel that you haven't made an impact, and then the metrics will show the consistency over time and go, oh, okay, well, I have been. But equally also, what it doesn't track is the conversations that you've had outside of social media or your marketing or whatever. And people have gone, oh yeah, I've seen it. I've never commented, but I've seen you. I know what you've been doing, and I really like this. Or you did such and such, and you go, well, bugger me. You didn't comment or you didn't engage with that content, but that content's clearly landed because it's still at the forefront of your brain, and you've wanted to talk about it. So you can't track that. That's internal to the human being.
exactly. And I think we've lost that, especially as more data has become available, as everything's become so quantifiable. It's we don't. I can't really remember any times where I've spoken to a brand and they've said, what we really want is to like build advocates who will tell their friends about our product, like, because like you say, you can't put a number on that. So
how many friends
can't.
have they got? How many times are they going to tell them? How are they going to tell them? Like, how can you?
Exactly. And it's like I get that. I mean, I joke in the book about going sort of full hippie and launching a new KPI of return on vibes.
I love that.
I get that there has to be a balance. You still need to be able to measure what you're doing and so on, but let's at least carve out some space for thinking about connection and how we are making people feel about our business.
Yeah, because there is a danger, because at the end of the day, it's still social media and it's about people. And I think that there's a danger where businesses can just want to push it too far to just be about business, but actually the human being is multifaceted. The human being does business and it's interested in business, but it's also interested in the other elements. Like one of my new colleagues, she's testing the waters on what lands on LinkedIn, right? And she's like, it's really weird, but like recipes that's totally out of the blue, like a picture of food, seems to really capture people. And I said, well, I guess we all like to eat food, right? So that's the human element, isn't it? So I guess I'm going to ask you what practical tips can help marketers go beyond the demographics but help to build a richer understanding of their audience, of the human beings that are in the target audience, so that relationships feel more personal and more sustainable. So have you got any practical tips that marketers can consider?
Yep. So there's a whole chapter in the book dedicated to understanding your audience and going beyond demographics, like you say. And I developed a framework that we use in Giraffe, and it's in the book for other people to use, called the EMPATH framework.
There we go. Just in case you forgot what it looked like.
Yep. And the EMPATH framework is an acronym. So each of the letters kind of stands for something. And it's a new way of trying to understand your audience as people rather than as sort of data points. So I'll go through them very quickly for you. So E is for emotional understanding. And if you are looking to do something along those lines, my advice would be copy and paste all of your reviews into a Word document, copy and paste all of the reviews from your competitors into a Word document, upload it all into ChatGPT and say, pick out all the emotions. What emotions are coming across in all these reviews? Which words are coming up that are emotional words? And then create a word map and see like what are the words that get said the most about how people feel. I think it's always been a really valuable exercise. The M is for market sort of research. So sort of looking at really just what's happening in the world. It's, the context for them. I think sometimes we don't think about that in terms of what's happening in the world at the moment that might impact how they think about things or how they make decisions. The P is patterns of behavior. So is your audience, are they the sorts of people who make impulsive decisions? Do they visit your website 2,000 times before they make a purchase? Do they sort of comment on social? How long do they follow you before they do something? Like, just trying to understand how they behave and why.
Yeah.
The A is audience feedback, and this is a pretty wild idea, but it's about actually speaking to your customers.
Crazy.
I know. I'm a revolutionary. But again, it's one of those things that everyone goes, yeah, great idea. But how many people actually do it? How many people pick up the phone and say, when you found us, who else were you looking at? And what made you pick us? And were there any red flags about us that almost stopped you from making that decision? Where am I? audience feedback. The T is team feedback. So again, it's another untapped resource, but the people who are on the front line, whether it's like customer service or sales,
Yeah.
often have a much better idea of who your customer is than you.
Yes.
So it's important for marketing teams to speak to those two other departments. All of those things put together is the H, which is the human understanding map. And that's where you kind of combine all of your findings. And this isn't about creating a neat box that you say, all my customers exist within this space. This is about the messy, beautiful chaos of humans, and saying, look, I don't need to create an avatar of Sally the shopper and write all my marketing for this fake person. I just need to understand how my audience are feeling and how they act and why and what's going on for them at the moment, and let that steer your decisions. So that's the framework that we use for understanding our customers.
I love that framework. And I also love the fact that you just use Sally the shopper, because there is such thing as Sally the giraffe. Any mothers and fathers out there will know.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I
It's
don't
a
know
little
if
toy
it
for
dates me, but
babies.
I'm more Jeffrey the giraffe from Toys R Us. Yeah.
Oh yes, of course. Well, Sally and Jeffrey, I mean, we've got both sexes there, haven't
They
we?
probably get on really well, yeah.
So you describe community engagement as both reactive and proactive. Why is balancing the two so important to create lasting relationships?
Yeah, so reactive is important because, let's define them first. So reactive, by that, what I mean is replying to inbound comments, inbound messages. Proactive, I mean actually going out and starting conversations that you weren't invited to. So reactive is important because, for me, I think you should be replying to everything. Because I'm a big believer in sort of social capital, in the sense that if you want people to engage with your content, the first bit of advice I would give you is engage with theirs. You know, if people comment on your posts as a brand and you don't reply, you are giving them zero incentive to continue doing so and to continue building a relationship with you. So reactive is important because it's rewarding engagement, and it's giving you an opportunity to actually have meaningful conversations. Proactive is interesting, and it's something that we're seeing brands do more of, which is with organic reach being squeezed on posts all the time. Proactive community engagement is where you say, right, I'm going to get out there and comment on key influencers in my industry, key brands in my industry, customers, people talking about particular topics, people talking about my brand. And this is brands showing up in conversations and building awareness and through a strategy that isn't posting. And you can achieve far greater reach often from this strategy. But you can also show more personality. You can have more meaningful conversations. They're both vitally important. And it's always the first advice I give when someone speaks to us and they say, we're just not getting the engagement on our posts anymore. I always say the same thing, which is, how much engagement are you putting out onto other people's posts and other brands' posts? Start there, because often it's not a case of your content's not good enough, or another one people seem to obsess over is what time the post goes out in the day. And these things aren't as important as you think. And
well, not on LinkedIn,
important,
not anymore, is it? Especially when it's bringing like posts from 3 weeks ago,
but that's the thing, is like algorithms change all the time, right? So it's the most important thing you can do is actually build connections to other people by engaging with their content, because when they then see your content, they now know who you are, and they might want to reply, or they might want to engage, and it builds from there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, as a personal brand as well, when you see it's the same person commenting or liking your posts, you eventually have the intrigue of going, I need to meet this person. They're obviously, who are they? I need to find out more about them. And it's that intrigue, isn't it? Almost, it sort of piques your interest.
100%. Yeah.
And I always talk about riding the magic carpet as well. And it was something that I picked up from, I don't know if you follow her, Amelia Sordell. She's a personal branding specialist and has a social media agency called Clout. well, personal branding agency called Clout. And I think this was when I was first starting out. I learnt this from her, and it was when you see that there's a post about to go viral, you make sure that you comment on there, and then you can maybe comment on a few other comments, so that you're going to be at the top, and then all the other people commenting after that will see your comment and then see you, and then check your profile out or comment or reply, and then you're sort of building visibility based off the back of somebody else's amazing you didn't create that content, but you're gaining traction from it. So it was about riding the magic carpet, and I thought that was a great bit of advice.
I think from a personal brand perspective, it's a really great way to demonstrate thought leadership, to comment on other people's thoughts and their experiences, and provide your thoughts and experiences, and obviously in a respectful way. It can be really, really good. And I love having a LinkedIn debate. Like, my favorite thing is when I post something and someone comments and they completely disagree with me. I'm like, great, let's have a conversation, because that for me that's the magic is that's when you start figuring out what you really think, when you have to back yourself up and consider other people's perspectives. And a lot of writing the book was me sending it to people and saying, why am I wrong? Like, why is this not true? Like, challenge me on it.
Which takes bravery in itself as well, doesn't it?
It does. It's a muscle though. I think the more you do it, the less attached you get. And plus, I think you just start to realize no one really knows what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. We're all just acting. Like, we're all just learning, failing, winning. It's, I think just don't get too attached to anything and being perceived as someone who knows all the answers, because no one does.
No.
Yeah.
Years ago, when I did teacher training, one of the key things that they said to us is, don't ever step into a classroom and pretend you know the answer to something that you don't, because those students will find you out straight away, and then you will lose all credibility, all trust with them. It's just not worth it. So just say, I don't really know the answer, but I can go away and find it. And I think that was a great bit of advice many moons ago. So
that's good advice.
Yeah. So consistency is something that you emphasize. How can small but regular acts of engagement, even for 5 minutes a day, help relationships endure over time?
I think it's if you take it off of social and think about it as real relationships with real people, if let's say you start a new job and you have a colleague, this analogy could go off the tracks real quick. So
I'm excited to hear where it goes now.
I'm thinking off the top of the dome here, and it could go anywhere. But I'm sort of thinking, like, if you started a new job and you have a colleague and you spoke to them for 5 minutes on the first day, and then you just ignored them for 2 months, and then you spoke to them again for 5 minutes, they're probably not going to be very receptive, are they?
No.
So, just because it's on social doesn't really mean it's different to how it would be in real life. So I think building engagement and carving out time to do it on a daily basis, if possible, for me is like, I'd rather someone spend 5 minutes a day doing sort of community engagement than spend an hour once a week. And also the algorithms now for all the platforms, especially LinkedIn, they reward it. They want people to use the platform, and if you're using it every day, and I mean, LinkedIn even has those like little, like, oh, you've done 7 of 9 things.
Yes.
Like, they're trying to get you to do it. So consistency is key, and you see that when if you stop posting and stop engaging for a couple of weeks. Like, if you ever go on holiday and you don't schedule things, it's a slog when you get back. The momentum's gone, and the algorithm doesn't show your stuff anymore, and you have to kind of regain it all. So little and often.
Yeah, I agree. So how much of creating strong and lasting relationships depends on the culture within the team? So we sort of touched on this at the very, very beginning. And like I said, we've talked about it in the last few episodes. So, and I think it would be really good to talk to you about it, because you're in the same position as me, and you get to work with lots of different companies with different cultures in, and I described it as a flavor, because it is, isn't it? You know, when you take on a new client, they have a different flavor than each other, and you have to respond as an agency to that. But also you have to try and find what's going to. Now I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Where am I going to go with this one? What's going to bring the umami out of that flavor? Okay. You know, that's different, isn't it? Okay. But you know what I mean? Like, what's going to make that flavor the strongest in the most positive way, that's going to make them more delicious on social media? I must be hungry. I keep relating everything to food right now.
Have you got like a new book coming out, like the umami of social media or something? Like, you know,
that's maybe the title. I should. Lovely.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. So I think it comes back to that authenticity side of things, and not trying to be something, but, you know, having your culture come out through your social media. So an example is, we work with a car mechanic, and they're a national chain, and we've been talking to them about doing more content with their teams in each place, in each location, and their hesitancy is sort of about, well, why is anyone going to care? And like, you know, the guys who work in the garage are not necessarily the most PC, and you know, they're not going to necessarily be the right marketing content. It's not going to be polished. And I said to him, the best thing you could do would be go to a garage, find the two biggest characters in that garage, and start 100%. Doing TikToks where it's like they're telling each other jokes or something, you know, not even necessarily related to it, but just something that they would probably naturally be doing anyway. And get it out there, and you'd be amazed, like, you know, how that would gain traction. So I think it's important that your marketing doesn't present a culture that isn't true. It's sort of the equivalent of, like, have you ever seen the show Catfish?
Yes. Oh, who hasn't, right? I mean, it's very entertaining.
So like, it's that, right? It's like, you know, if you in your marketing you're pretending to be one thing, and then people turn up and it's like completely different, it's going to be super jarring and a real disconnect for them. So I think it's important to have that authenticity, but culture is also important if you're going down a route of human first marketing, because the people are important. So whether that's you want them to be posting about their job and about their place of work, or whether it's that you want them to be involved in content that you're creating for your main company pages. A couple of my team were speaking on a panel maybe about 6 months ago, and they were talking about employee advocacy, and someone in the crowd said their question was, yeah, but how do you get them to do it? How do you sort of force them to do it if they don't want to? And I sort of thought, you're missing the point. Like, and that's why I added, in fact, it was around that time that I decided to write, there's two chapters in the book, one on culture and one on values, because without that, none of it works. And, you know, and I think if you run a good business with good culture and it has values and your team are bought into that and you hire people who align with that, a lot of the human first marketing stuff just kind of naturally happens. You don't have to force it too much. So yeah, I think there's a link between culture and marketing that I don't think gets spoke about enough. Yeah, it's important.
And I think that leadership really plays a key part in that, doesn't it? So, you know, by them embedding authenticity and being visible, that sort of leads the way, doesn't it?
Yeah. That was, you know, I'm introverted, and, you know, for a long time, I didn't do anything like on LinkedIn or podcasts or, you know, writing a book or any of these things. But I started to recognize that this is the way things are going, and that whilst this might not always come naturally to me, that, you know, I can still manage that and sort of demonstrate to my team that I believe in this business enough to put my silly face everywhere and, you know, talk about these things. And yeah, hopefully that sort of sets not the expectation, but kind of sets the belief of it's important that we show customers and potential customers and other people in the industry who we are, and
Yeah.
who works here and what we're about.
Yeah. And I was going to say as well, industries like maritime, because obviously, I'm in maritime, we've got really long buying cycles. I mean,
Of
sometimes it could be
course.
short if you're lucky, but when people take a big amount of time to decide on whether they're going to go in one direction or not. So what are the practical opportunities for applying a human first approach where these relationship based sales exist with the long buying cycles? And how do you use that for your benefit, I guess?
Yeah, so we did some research recently about well, actually it was renewing our EMPATH framework, and I was speaking to lots of our clients, and I was asking myself the question, what's the link between our clients? Like, what's the commonality between why someone works with us and why someone doesn't?
Yeah.
And it just always came back to the same thing, that was relationship. When someone gets in touch and we build a really good rapport and we speak often, and we speak about things outside of business, and we just sort of start to develop some level of relationship. And that's not just me, but like them speaking to our team, or being active on social and commenting on their content. Those are the ones that end up working with us, and they're also the ones that end up staying as clients the longest. Relationships are everything. You hear the whole like, oh, it's who you know, and it's just true. I really do think that having people trust you and have a relationship with you is what ultimately will sort of open doors for you as a business. And in terms of practicalities, I think LinkedIn it's just underutilized by so many people. Like, you should be trying to engage with people in your industry all the time, and commenting on things. And if you have clients, like, be their cheerleader on LinkedIn, like shout about them and demonstrate that. And I think relationships are really key. And social's like the ultimate way of developing that in real time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the same for us, that the relationships, it is very relationship driven, and we're the same. As you end up getting quite social with your colleagues, your clients, sorry, because you actually enjoy each other, and it becomes sort of, or it's a friendship actually, in the long run. That's what you turn it into. And I think, LinkedIn and all the other social channels have got that opportunity to start creating those friendships and those relationships, especially in maritime, where it's global. So you're not necessarily living near them, and you can't sort of go for a coffee or whatever, in person, but you can develop and get to know one another by being active on their social channels and dropping the messages and maybe having a little coffee here and there. And it's not, the intention that I'm going to sell to you straight away. It's actually, you're laying the foundations of a friendship, because you're not just in for the quick sale. You're in for, I would like to do business with you because I like who your company is. I like who you are. And we could do business for a long time as a result of that. And I think that's, for me, that's what I love about LinkedIn, is sort of really getting to know people. And you're right, when you can't have somebody pretending one thing, and then, because that then will ultimately, that whole approach doesn't work then, does it? Because when you meet them in person, you go, oh my god, you are not you. And years ago I did many internet dates, and I had quite a few of those dates where they would rock up and you go, that is not the person I thought I was talking to. So we're starting to come to the end of the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation. Honestly, there's so much that we could talk about, and I feel like maybe there could be a part 2 to this. But I'm going to wrap up just quickly. Looking at across the sectors, do you think that businesses are adapting fast enough to a human-centered approach that creates lasting relationships, or do you think many are still behind?
I think it's going in the wrong direction at the moment. It was, to be honest, one of the big motivators for me to write the book, was to try and show a different way of doing things. And I think a big part of that is AI.
I was just about to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people assume as like the human first guy that I hate AI, but I don't. I think it has loads of uses and can massively improve things for us, but it just shouldn't be replacing humanity. It shouldn't be replacing that human creativity and the relationship and the connection building.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of brands are seeing AI as a cost saving exercise, and they're, we talked earlier about the introduction of more data and metrics, meaning that we're feeling more impersonal. AI is just maximizing that even further. I mean, it's just, people just generating 50 social media posts and scheduling them all out with a click of a button, and it's just, I don't know. Everything's just feeling more and more beige and gross.
Yes. You can tell when an AI has done a social media post to when a human who might have used AI to create that social media post, but they've used it as a tool to augment rather than to actually devise and create. And
this is a really important nuance that I think gets lost, is that if you just open ChatGPT and say, write me a post about leadership, and then you just copy and paste it out, that's bad. If you open ChatGPT and you say, I'm going to do a post on LinkedIn about leadership, and specifically, I have this belief about this, and I had this situation happen, and this is how I dealt with it, and I kind of want to put that into a post. Like, if there's that nuance between the two, I don't really have a problem with that. Like, I think I'd still rather people were writing, because I'm a nerd for writing, but like, I don't mind. I think if you're inputting the heart and the soul into it yourself, and then you're sort of tweaking it and make sure it's you. I don't really have an issue with that. I just have an issue when it's like, there's no input. It's just output.
Yeah, the original thought needs to be a human one as opposed to an AI one, because actually AI doesn't have an original thought. It's come from somewhere else.
Very true.
Oh,
but don't say it too loudly, because when the robots come for us, they become our overlords.
Oh my goodness! Well, we could be friends. So to wrap up, if listeners could take just one practice from human first marketing to build digital relationships that truly stick, what would it be?
Put your face in more marketing.
It's an uncomfortable truth, isn't it? Yeah. I must admit, I don't like doing it myself, but I've had to. And
it's again, going back to what I said earlier about being introverted, it's not something that comes naturally. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And, I'm not talking about doing some sort of big photo shoot or something, but people just want to see real people. And I think that matters. So even if it's just a case of getting your phone out and taking a selfie of you drinking your morning coffee, it will make the difference. Not only will you see more engagement, but also people will start to feel like they know you a bit more. And that's important.
That's definitely true, because when I've been to events and, in my head, I'm like, oh, it's just me. Like, nobody knows me, right? And then I'll go to an event and people will come up to me and go, and they'll be talking to me like they know me. And I'm thinking, do I know this person? I don't want to be rude, because I'm thinking, so I'm trying to ask those leading questions of, and we met no, we've never met. Oh, okay. So it is true though. It helps people get to know you. Yes. But
so this is the whole theory of like parasocial relationships, where like, if you've listened to a podcast for ages, you feel like you know that person, and there's not a relationship there, but there sort of feels like there is one. Like there's YouTube channels that I've watched for years, and if I was ever to meet those people, it would feel like meeting an old friend, but I don't know them, and they definitely don't know me. So that's the beauty of it, for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, that's it from us for the Social Media for Business podcast. A huge thank you, Phil Treagus-Evans. Did I pronounce that right, by the way?
Yeah, pretty much.
Almost, okay. I forgot to check in the beginning. From Giraffe Social, Sally or Jeffrey, either way. Does your mascot have it? Is you going to go for Jeffrey? Are you?
We don't have a mascot because we're a human first agency, Rebecca. So we did have like a cuddly toy of a giraffe, and it did have a name. but I think it was Gary. So it was
Right.
neither of those things.
Okay. Maybe you should do a social media campaign of what should we name our giraffe? You know, do a
maybe.
poll. Gary,
I'd have to find
Sally,
it first.
Jeffrey.
It's in the office somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, going back to this, but I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on. It's been a real pleasure. And also a huge thank you to sending me the book, because both myself and my colleague Sam really enjoyed reading it. And it's been a really great source of conversation today. So where would obviously be the best place to find you, Phil, if anybody has any questions?
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Obviously, the book's available on Amazon, and the website for Giraffe is giraffesocialmedia.co.uk.
Fantastic. So thank you to all who have listened. Don't forget to comment with any questions or topics that you'd like covering in the next episodes, including if you'd like to see Phil back on the show, if you've got any questions specifically that we can do a part 2. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode packed with tips from experts like Phil to help your maritime business become visible, and share your positive business culture and the human first approach that you will be now taking after listening to this episode. So that's it for me. Bye for now. Bye, Phil.
Bye.